Birds, people, and the dogs that bring them together. This is episode number 17. My name is Bill, and you're tied to the Woe Post. Before we start, I want to thank my patrons for supporting the podcast, and you too can support it at patreon.com/thewopost. For the small Munsterlander owners out there, if you're not registered for the annual SMCNA meeting at Brushdale Kennel June 7th to the 9th, there's still time. You can find a link on their Facebook page, or you can contact me on Facebook or Instagram at The Woe Post, by email bill@thewopost.com, or through my website www.thewopost.com. We're still working our way through France in the Navda Versatile Breeds series. I bet you didn't know that there are more versatile breeds from France than there are from any other country. We see German breeds all the time out at training days or when we're hunting out in the field, wherever. There are only 8 versatile NAVDA recognized breeds from Germany. There are actually 9 from France. Anyway, known as a hidden gem among bird dogs, the Picardy Spaniel was created for hunters by hunters in the Picardy region of northern France. The breed has changed very little since its creation in 1907. Both males and females range from 21.5 to about 23.5 inches, roughly 45 to 55 pounds. Their coat is medium long, dense, and harsh, with furnishings on the legs and tail. They're mottled gray and brown in color, with most of the face and lower legs being brown. They're known to be tougher, more resilient, maybe even more independent than other French breeds, but still highly cooperative, trainable, calm, and affectionate. Today we have Mike Yashko, co-owner of Bird Dog of the Day, with us to talk the Picardy Spaniel. Hey Mike, how's it going?
Pretty good, Bill. How are you?
Doing great. I really appreciate you coming and being on the show. I know you're busy, but it's great to have you here. And there aren't too many authorities on your breed. So it's slim pickings, and so it's good to find somebody who's willing to come on.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I'm the authority, but I do know a fair amount about Picardy Spaniels, so I'll give them my best shot.
Excellent. Can you go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure. My name is Mike Yashko. I live in Southwest Florida, but I do spend some time in Georgia and Montana. Georgia a little bit in the summer, getting ready for travel out west, and then I spend most of my time hunting in Montana, although I've spent some time in North Dakota and South Dakota and Kansas and Nebraska and those places west. So I've been a dog person my whole life, but I got really heavy into bird dogs, I think about the middle of the 20-teens, so 2014, 15, somewhere there in that area. I acquired my first Picardy Spaniel and just enamored with the breed, and I ended up with 3 more. So you could say I'm all in, I guess.
So you've been to Picardys now for almost 10 years, or maybe over 10 years.
Yeah, just about 10 years. My oldest female is going to be, 9 years. It's going to be 9 this November. Her name's Tilly. And I found Tilly. It's a strange thing. I don't know if you want to get into how I got into Picardy Spaniels.
I do, actually. Yeah.
Sure. So I don't know, 10 years or so ago, my son had a German short-haired pointer named Wrigley, and I absolutely loved that dog. We got her as a puppy from Pennsylvania, living in Florida, obviously, at the time. And I loved that dog, but I soon came to realize that she had a little too much energy for what I was looking for. He's since acquired a Cocker Spaniel, which has done nothing to settle his household down, but he runs a Cocker with a GSP now. But those dogs had a little too much go for me and for what I was looking for in my style of hunting. And so I started to look around. I did a lot of research. I'm a real estate lawyer by trade, and so I'm really kind of used to researching my various options when I do things. And so I spent a fair amount of time looking at various breeds online, and I had sort of settled in on Brittany's. And there was a breeder in Georgia that I had actually made a visit to. He didn't have a litter on the ground at the time and didn't have one planned, but I was going to wait for a Brittany from him. And as I was Googling around, you get a list of search results. I typed in Brittany Spaniel, and for some reason, about the 15th search result down, which people hardly ever scroll down to, but I did. I think it was Karma. Um, there was Picardy Spaniel. Just somehow the Google search engine picked it up. And I started to look at this dog, and I was just enamored with the beauty and the grace and the style of this Picardy Spaniel, which I'd never heard of as a breed until that point in time. And so I started to do some research. I realized it was a French dog, and I started to get onto some websites of some breeders in France. I don't speak French, so I was having literally to cut and paste from these French websites to, um, Google Translator, and I was getting bits and pieces of what I needed, and I got a little frustrated. And I had a coffee table book called Continental Pointers by a guy named Craig Koshik,
Mhm.
who's pretty big in the upland bird dog community. And I didn't know Craig, but I had his book and I loved his book. And so one Saturday morning, just on a lark, I just called him. I got his number. I called him, said, "Hey, this is going to sound like it's coming out of left field, but I was wondering if you'd talk to me a little bit about one of the dogs that you have in your one of the breeds that you have in your book, Picardy Spaniels." And Craig's a great guy. He couldn't have been more friendly and more open and welcoming. And he said in that conversation, it's funny. I've got a Picardy Spaniel reserved, and he'll be over here this spring. I think this was probably 2016. And he said the breeder's from England, a guy named Adrian Morris. He's a great guy. You can obviously speak to him in English. I'll give you his name and give him a heads up that you're going to get in contact with him if you want. And I said yes. And so that was the start of it all. Kind of a kind of a lark and kind of a question to Craig out of left field, but that's what started my trip down the road about 10 years now with Picardy Spaniels. So
Yeah, kind of a lark and a little bit of luck, right?
yeah, exactly.
There you go. There's your book right there.
Yeah, exactly. I love this breed, and I feel very lucky that the stars sort of aligned, and I was able to get into into the Picardy Spaniel world and the Picardy Spaniel community. So
I think, a lot of the French dogs are, they're underdogs, if you will. Aside from maybe the Brittany's, everybody knows Brittany's, and we see a ton of them in trials. I know they're really popular in Astra and stuff, but the other French breeds, you just don't see a ton of them out there. The more people that I talk to that are French pointer owners, the more I'm learning that, yeah, I probably could have gone that route with any of the French breeds myself.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are a little bit of a they are a little bit of a hidden treasure, and I'm not sure what that is. I think part of it is just historical. NAVDA has a lot to do with upland bird hunting dogs in the United States, and as you probably know, that was started by a German national, and he had I think, a predilection towards the German breeds, and the German breeds are great. The GSPs and the Weims and whatnot. They have great reputations for being hard charging, go get 'em dogs, and they deserve that reputation, and they're wonderful dogs. But I think because of all that, they've tended to overshadow, at least in that community and in that world, some of the other breeds, and the French ones in particular. And Brittany's have been represented pretty well historically, but the rest of the French breeds not so much. And there's probably a lot of reasons, and I'm not an expert as to how this all comes together, and I'm certainly not an expert in history of NAVDA, but it just seems to me, people being people, they probably were, either at a training session or some people out hunting together or whatever. They see a GSP, they say, "Hey, I like how that dog moves. I like that dog's temperament. I like his energy. I'm going to get one of those." And I think that's how they've become so popular. To now to the point where they may be, the leading dog registered in NAVDA. I'm not sure, but they certainly got to be up there if they're not. And so if you want a French breed, you have to do a little more work and you have to sift and sort a little bit more to try to come up with a breed that works for you.
It's easy to be swayed towards those highly driven, energetic dogs when you're talking the knob the world, because if you go to a training day and you're going to run your dog for 15 or 20 minutes, and that dog's a speed demon for 15 or 20 minutes, I think it looks really cool for everybody, your gunners that are out helping you, people that are planting birds that are out helping you, and maybe people that are just following along helping you as well. But that dog that's at a dead sprint for 20 minutes might not hunt with you for 3 or 4 hours straight. It might get tired pretty quickly. And I'm not talking about any particular breed there, of course. I mean, there are tons of great dogs in all 32 breeds, but I think a dog that sprints for 20 minutes is not going to maintain that pace. It's going to tire quickly and may end up, right at your ankles after 30 minutes. Who knows, right?
That's right. And I think that you just hit on an important point, I think, when you're selecting a dog, particularly if you're, analyzing the breeds and comparing and contrasting and not just looking at individual dogs, you've got to find a breed that sort of meshes with what you're looking for in a hunting dog, in a bird dog. And I don't think sometimes people spend enough time thinking through that. I probably spent too much, but I'm very satisfied with the result because I think I got a breed that matches my personality and the way that I like to hunt, the places that I like to hunt, the types of a relationship that I want to have with my dog. I think Picardy Spaniel fits me to a T. It's not to say there's not a dozen other breeds out there that would have done that, but there are also a dozen other breeds out there that wouldn't have. A GSP just doesn't match the way that I want to hunt. An English pointer doesn't match the way that I want to hunt. Most of the Gordons, although I love those dogs, don't match the way that I want to hunt. They're perfect for a piece of it um, in the woods, but you don't see many of them out on the prairies. So I feel like it all just came together. The stars were aligned in the way I went about it and the choices that I made. And as I said, I probably overanalyzed it, but I think I'd rather do that than not think about it hard enough. I think people end up mismatched a lot of times when they don't do it. And what happens is they get disappointed in the dog, or the dog, doesn't respond to them as well as they should. They have to use training methods that they're not comfortable with. They may want to have to use training methods that the dog's not comfortable with to try to get the results that they want. So I think it's really important to try to understand what relationship you want to have with your dog before you pick a breed. So,
And it's a big commitment too. Forget about the financial commitment up front, but it's 12, 13, 14, maybe 15 years that you're going to have that dog with you. If you're anything like me, anyway, I'm stubborn. I just wouldn't give up. Even if I didn't like the dog, I would probably keep working at it until one of us died.
yeah,
Maybe me, who
yeah,
knows?
yeah. When I get a dog, we're partners for life. I'm not uh, training to test on this circuit or that circuit. I don't have to put um, a bunch of prizes on my dogs. It's nice to do that. It's nice to go through the program, but that's really I test against myself. That's kind of what I like about the NAVDA system. Um, if you're in it for those other reasons, yeah, you might move a dog out of your kennel after a couple of years, but I don't do that. So it's even more important for me to try to get the best match that I can. And obviously, if you get a breed that you're comfortable with, the chances of getting an individual dog within that breed that matches you really well, it's just enhanced. So I think that's an important part of it.
Sure. So you mentioned that the way the dogs looked and hunt and act and everything matched exactly what you're looking for. What was that?
Well, um, I wanted a dog. I wanted it all. Let's start with that. I wanted it all. I think I got it all. I may be a little biased, but I had a list of sort of requirements of mine that I needed a dog to match. And when I started the process, I was probably willing to get, 9 of 10, or 95% of what I had on my list. And I think I ended up with 100%. And so I'm really happy about it. But what I wanted, first of all, was I wanted looks. I wanted a dog that was well put together, that moved well. I mean, this is not unique to me. I think in any breed, people are looking for this, but just generally speaking. And then I wanted a dog that was unique. I didn't want to have a dog, and Picardys certainly are unique. I didn't want a dog like everybody else had. Um, I tend to like Spaniels to start with. That general class of upland dogs. I guess they don't have to be upland. I hunt primarily upland, so I say that, but waterfowl as well. I just like Spaniels. I like the looks, and so that part matched. Picardy Spaniels have a beautiful coat. I don't know how many of you that you've seen, but they start out as puppies with a lot of what looks to be white. It's probably more silver than white with brown spots. They look a lot, frankly, like GSP puppies when they're born. And then as they get older, they have a brown coat that sort of grows out from underneath and covers up the silver. So when it's all said and done, it looks as if their coat is brown with silver flecks in it. There's a definite, particularly at various times of the year, when they're shedding a little bit, you'll see a lot of silver on them, or gray, and they have this beautiful tan markings on their muzzle and on their feet and on their legs. They look a little bit like a Gordon setter. In fact, there's some Gordon setter that was mixed into them, some liver Gordons that were mixed into them post World War One, to try to broaden the gene pool, but they just have that very distinctive look, and they move sort of effortlessly across the ground. They almost have a cat-like or feline movement to them, particularly when they're stalking. Those last couple of steps before they lock up. I have one particular male named Theo who very much exhibits that sort of cat-like trait, and that's what I was looking for. So you get that combination of looks and then hunting style. They hunt a little closer in terms of range. I mean, I think a comfortable range for a Picardy Spaniel is 60 to 100 yards. That's what I wanted. I didn't, I don't want to chase my dog all over the prairie. I don't want to, have a GSP that locks up on a bird 800 yards away. And I know there are lots of great reasons for that. It's just not what I want to do. I don't want to chase my dog, all over the prairie. And so they can hunt pretty much in any type of terrain. They, as I just said, they hunt on the prairie. They hunt well in the woods. They hunt in the marshes, and they're great water dogs. So it opens up the whole panoply of bird species to you. I mean, I hunt sharptail, sage grouse, Hungarian partridge, pheasant when I'm out west, quail in Georgia. They're great for woodcock, rough grouse in the North Georgia mountains. There's some friends of mine who have dogs, in the Northwoods, in Minnesota and whatnot, that hunt rough grouse with them. So they're just a really versatile type of dog. And so, that all of those traits came together. That was exactly what I was looking for.
Do you know? So there are blue Picardys and there are Picardys. Are they genetically similar at just like the large Munsterlander and the German Longhair, or are these two completely different dogs?
Well, they're different breeds now.
Right.
I think they're probably, I'm not a geneticist, but genetically, I think they're probably similar. Um, there's, the Picardy region of France is just north of Paris, and it was both in World War One, I guess particularly in World War One, but also in World War Two, sort of the epicenter of, the world wars in Europe. And the Picardy Spaniel, as a breed, was almost decimated, because of all the fighting and whatnot that went on there. Probably 250 years ago in that region of France, they started to develop these dogs. They were basically a gray house dog with brown spots, as far as I understand the history. a couple hundred years ago, maybe at the end of the 19th century. And they started to cross them with Brittany Spaniels. They started to cross them with English setters. There was a time when English setters, well, any English dog was all the rage in Europe. Everybody wanted to get the English pointer bloodline and the English setter genetics. And so they crossed these dogs with setters. They crossed them with liver Gordons, as I mentioned. They crossed them with Brittany Spaniels. I think the blue, and again, I'm not a geneticist, but I think the blue Picardy came out of some pretty heavy crosses with English setters at that time. And so they developed that sort of distinctive black/blue look. And the Picardy Spaniel, tended towards the brown and gray with the tan markings. But I think at one point in time, they probably were the same group of dogs that were, essentially house dogs that people had to hunt game to put on their dinner table in that region of France, back during those times. So I think the Picardy Spaniel was recognized as a distinct breed in the early 1900s. I don't know when the blue Picardy was, but it's probably about the same time that they kind of diverged and each became their own breed. But so I would say they're genetically probably pretty similar, but they are distinct breeds.
Yeah, I know that we recognize them as two different breeds, or at least Navda does. I was really hoping to hear you say, nope, exactly the same dog, just a different color, different coat. And I was going to try and wrap those two breeds into one episode because it's hard enough to find an authority on Picardy Spaniels. Finding an authority on blue Picardys is proving to be very challenging.
Right,
So,
right.
but you may have you may have prevented me from doing that. I may have to do some more homework.
Well, I think you should do that homework and search them out. I think blue Picardys deserve their own airing in terms of their relative merits, but they do look very similar. Really, the coat's kind of the difference. As far as I know, the temperament, the look, the way they hunt, their range, all of that stuff is really, really similar. So you probably could combine them, but I don't think that would be fair to the blues.
Fair enough. There are probably two blue Picardy Spaniel owners in North America that would be offended if I did that.
Right, right.
So you said you have four dogs in your kennel now?
I do. I have two females and two males. The oldest is my female Tilly. Her kennel name's Matilda, but I call her Tilly. She's going to be 9 in November. Um, she came over in 2016, as I said, from England. Wonderful breeder over there, a guy named Adi Maurice. His kennel is Shada Maurice, and he just breeds wonderful, wonderful dogs. I feel very blessed to have gotten 4 dogs from him. And so she came over, and that was going to be it for me. I just needed a hunting dog and a companion, and I was going to be done. And she's such a wonderful dog. After about a year and a half, my wife continued to follow Adi on his website or on Facebook, and he had another litter, and she kept talking about this little male puppy that he had in this latest litter. And I finally said to her, I said, "It sounds like you want to get that dog." And she said, "I think I kind of do." So, so long story short, I ended up with another. He came over in 2018. His name's Theo, and he's the man. I mean, he out of my kennel, he's my go-to dog. He's like a Swiss Army knife. He's got it all, and he's my go-to guy. They're all great dogs. Don't get me wrong, but he's I think a little bit head and shoulders above the rest. So I had him in the kennel, and then I really enjoyed the training process. I'll talk a little bit if you want to about training Picardys and how they react to that and their personality and temperament and whatnot. But I enjoyed it so much that I decided I'd like to give it a shot again after making mistakes and learning my lessons on the first two. So in 2019, I saw a female on Adi's website, and I contacted him, and I said to him, I love this little girl that you have with the purple collar. He said, "She's wonderful. What are you looking for?" I said, "Well, I want to train these guys up and I'll sell them off to some friends of mine that started dogs." And he said, "Well, if you want the hunter in this litter, you've got to get her brother. And so I took a look at her brother, and he was right. He had some, as far as you can tell from a 9-week-old puppy, some real potential, but I just couldn't get the little girl out of my mind. So like any dog lover, I got them both. And they arrived at the airport in Nashville in I think it was July of 2019. I picked them up at customs, and before I got to the exit, I had already made a decision I wasn't getting rid of these dogs. So so I got a chance to train two more, but I didn't sell them as started dogs. They're in my kennel, and I love having them all. It's really nice when I'm out west because I've got plenty of dog power. I can go out there for a couple, 3 weeks or so at a time and hunt every day and never have a tired dog, never have a sore dog. Everybody's ready to go as soon as I open the kennel door because they get rested and they get put through a nice rotation. So yeah, I've got four. I've got Tilly, Theo, Flirt, and Gus. Those are my four in the kennel at this point.
Bet you end up with a tired, sore hunter, though, don't you?
Yeah, oh, that's for sure. That's for sure.
So you mentioned you really enjoy the training. What is it about their temperament and those characteristics, their learning aptitude that makes them a good fit for you?
I mentioned earlier that I was looking for a particular relationship with my dog. And I guess the way to sum it up best is I'm not a big fan of hard training techniques or negative reinforcement, whatever it is that you want to call it. I am not a fan of force fetch in a traditional sense. I don't like the process that most people use, and I don't like the force part of it. Um, I don't know. I haven't found a better word for it, but it's almost compelled in my mind would be a better word than force fetch. But these dogs are wonderful on so many fronts. Um, they have great natural ability to start with. So a lot of this stuff you can approach from the standpoint of just trying to shape sort of an innate uh, um, a talent that's already in them. They're natural born retrievers. They've got a very strong nose. They um, they're really great at tracking because of that. Their point is really solid. They're pretty natural in that regard. My male Theo just sired his second litter with some friends of mine in Wisconsin at a kennel called Cast Iron Kennels, which if anybody's looking for a Picardy, I can't recommend Cast Iron Kennels highly enough. But Rick Plath and Ellen Bergfeld are friends of mine, and they have a wonderful female in their kennel named Whiskey, and Theo and Whiskey bred last fall. And they've got pups on the ground now in the spring that are probably 4.5 months old. Those dogs were, pointing birds in the backyard at 3 months, just really, really natural. So all of those traits that you're looking for in a good upland dog or waterfowl dog are already innate. And I know everybody's going to say that about all the breeds. That's why they're bird dogs. Um, but you don't have to do much to pull that out of them. And as I said, the way I approach it is that I try to find, catch them doing something positive, a skill set that they're going to need later on, like retrieving. And I try to reward that with positive reinforcement rather than try to, teach them through negative reinforcement to fetch or to hold and carry, whatever it happens to be. And I've done it 4 times with this breed. It's worked out, fine every single time. All of my dogs will retrieve. All of my dogs will hunt dead. They're great in the water, just like on the land. They're very comfortable in lakes and marshes. They've got great noses. They track, which is important, when I'm hunting pheasants, not so much with some other species, but I do hunt a fair amount, and that's important. They're very soft mouth, natural retrievers. Their field search is perfect for me. They kind of move at a medium gallop, 60 to 100 yards out. Some of them run bigger, and I can get them to. I can get my dogs to run at 250, 300, 400 yards if I want, but I typically don't. But sometimes they'll get out there when I'm out west. And so they're they had the sort of personality to be willing to accept that kind of training and actually thrive on that type of training. And it just meshed with me. It's what I want my relationship with my dogs to be. So it was pretty easy in that regard, pretty comfortable. No stress for me, no stress for the dog. They're very biddable. They got great personalities, and so it was just, it was fun as opposed to. And I'm not to say that I never got frustrated or never got disappointed. But I've seen some people who just have a really difficult time training their dogs. And I think a part of it is that their personalities don't mesh well. And mine personality meshes very well with that of a Picardy Spaniel. So
I think finding that match it's a gift once it actually happens. And I mentioned earlier that I was out at the duck pond with my dogs earlier today, and working with my small Munsterlander who's over here racked out because she got some pretty good swims in today. But now when I go to send her on a line, she when she's at heel, I look down at her. She looks up at me. When she sees my hand coming down, then she knows, all right, it's game on. She looks at my hand. She looks where my hand is pointing, and then she looks back up at me, and it's almost like she nods. We make eye contact real quick, and then she's right back on the line. Almost human-like qualities. And I know we're not supposed to attribute those to our dogs because that's just not how they work. But it's hard to not attribute that when a dog works with you like that. And I mean, she and we're meshing very well right now in our training process, and I've got to keep taking advantage of this.
right. Well, you mentioned she's laying there with you. That was another thing too. And I looked at small Munsterlanders. They're very similar breeds in terms of temperament and whatnot. So I assume she's pretty good in the house then if she's laying there with you.
So I stole this from Stephen Faust. I can't take credit for it, but we all talk about our dog's off buttons or off switches, and she has an on switch. So when she's in the house, she's in her place and she knows where to go. She knows that's where she goes. And I'm not going to say she's perfect. She cheats here and there, but if she's reminded, go back to your place, she'll go back to her place and curl up in a ball and go to sleep. She's in her crate right now, just off the corner of my desk right here. And now, granted, like I said, she had a big afternoon out in the
Sure.
duck pond, but she's in there racked out, and she'll be in there until the door opens up. So I talk about their on switch, which again I got from Steven, rather than the off switch or the off button.
Right. Yeah, it sounds like it's very similar to what my dogs do. That was an important part to me too. Maybe the most important, and I left it out, but my dogs live in my house, and so they have to be almost companions first and hunting dogs second. And so it was real important to me that they have that switch that you talked about. My son's GSP is a wonderful dog, and she lives in a house, but she's, going on 10 years old, and she's just now to the point where you don't have to throw the tennis ball to her for an hour to get her to, come in the house and lay down. I mean, it's just her personality. She has a lot of energy, and I didn't want to have to do that, particularly with multiple dogs. And so that's a great thing about this breed is that they'll flip the switch, as you said, when I take them out in the field, but bring them in the house and they're perfectly content to lay in their place and just be a house dog, just be a companion.
That short hair, that high energy short hair, is the perfect dog for somebody. Right? And
Right,
that
right,
person would not be happy with a Picardy or with a small Munsterlander.
right.
Right? So it's not that I think that one is better than the other. It's just a different relationship.
Yeah, 100%. There's as many relationships between dogs and people as there are people and dogs. And like any other relationship, if you get a good fit, you can have a lifetime of enjoyment. If you get a bad fit, it probably doesn't last a lifetime. So it's important, I think, on the front end to analyze it and make a good choice.
So besides hunting and maybe getting out to Montana and the Dakotas this fall, what do you have in store for the kennel this year?
Well, I'm it's sort of I was going to say sort of the same as every year, but every year seems to be a little bit different. This year I'm into the right now to to conditioning. I live in Southwest Florida, so it's hot. I mean, it's summertime down here, and I think it's probably mid 90s today. So we get out early in the morning. I'm getting these guys conditioned. I'm going to spend a little bit of time in Georgia over the summer. I'll start to do some water work, up there. I don't really use birds anymore. The planted birds and I just have to use wild birds. These dogs are in great shape. They don't really need that tune-up, but they do need the conditioning and whatnot. So there's a lot of that. I use the water in Georgia a lot for conditioning. We do a lot of swimming. Um, and then I'm going to go to, Montana this fall and, I'll drop the tailgate and these guys will be ready to go. So there's not much going on except that sort of, mundane day-to-day stuff, which I actually love. I love that process. I love being out there in the morning. I love watching the dogs work. And so it's a happy time for me. Um, I'm working on some matches or potential matches, hopefully for my boys this fall. I haven't bred my girls. I don't intend to. I just wasn't at the place in my life where I could have a litter in my home. They've sort of aged out now, but I am making sure that my boys' genetics get passed on because without being biased, I think they've got some really good traits. I think they're both good dogs. And as I said, Theo's got two litters that he sired, and Gus has sired one already. And they've both produced some really great dogs. So I'm trying to make those matches for this fall. And other than that, just going through the day to day, which is one of the most enjoyable parts of it. So
When you get ready to head up to Montana, are you doing any snake conditioning or breaking or anything like that?
Um, they've all been snake broke once. Tilly had the opportunity to do it twice and didn't need it. Um, I broke everybody 3 or 4 years ago in Montana. There was a very well known um, Brittany guy in a small town in Montana, and I can't remember. I was thinking there how I got connected with him, and I can't remember. But in any event, I took all four dogs there, and his particular technique was great. I thought he used prairie rattlers that he had defanged. A lot of people put their snakes in a cage or something and bring the dogs near the cage and whatnot. He actually put them out on the ground. He tied him to a woe post,
Oh, wow.
and we basically did a circle, and he planted the snake, on that circle, on that circumference of the stake, so the dogs would be sure to encounter the snake as they went around. And he had, one lead attached to the post and snapped to the dog's collar, and another lead snapped to the dog's collar that, he led them around. And all three of the dogs, they only needed one shock on that collar to understand that they weren't supposed to mess with snakes. If I could find a convenient place, I'd probably tune them up. But honestly, I ran into a couple rattlers in Montana last year, and my dogs, I mean, I could tell there were snakes there because they were patterning along out in front of me and all of a sudden took a sharp right turn. And it was a very distinctive avoidance technique. So there was something out there. Now I've got to work on porcupines. I had some trouble with
Oh,
porcupines last year. Uh, Theo got a couple in his tongue, and Gus got a couple on his nose from sticking their nose in a place where it doesn't belong. But so far, I've been lucky with snakes. But I wouldn't mind tuning them up or at least giving them another opportunity if I find a convenient place to do it.
sure. I think that peace of mind it's worth it, right?
100%. I give them annual rattlesnake venom shots. It's based on an Eastern Diamondback uh, venom, so I'm not sure how that translates out west, but I figure it's better than nothing. And they spend enough time out east that they could encounter a snake here too. So yeah, the peace of mind is big. And I think if your local NAVDA chapter or somebody has a clinic where you can go through the snake avoidance, you should.
Right. Yeah, I know. Well, in Georgia, are you up in North Georgia when you're training?
Yeah, I'm up in North Georgia, a little town called Hiawassee. It's about as far north as you can go in Georgia before you get to North Carolina. And I'm a member of a NAVDA chapter down. It's called the Chattahoochee chapter down near Noonan, Georgia. It's about a 4 hour drive for me, so I don't actually get to attend training days as often as I want to. But it's a great group of people, and they do a really nice job. And I've attended some snake training and other stuff there as well. So it's a little bit of an uneven process, with snakes and whatnot. But I think they've gotten the message at this point.
Right. Yeah, I think there are plenty of rattlesnakes up in North Georgia. Definitely worth the conditioning and the
Absolutely,
and the immunization as well.
absolutely.
So I was going to ask you about standout dogs. I think you already told me. Theo is pretty much your man, huh?
Yeah, he's again, I don't want to diminish what Flirt and Tilly and Gus do because they're great dogs, but Theo sort of has it all. I like a flatter coat. Um, there's a there were some Ponts, another breed in Europe, that was bred into the Picardys at some point in time in the last 100 years or so. They have a really curly coat because they were in turn crossed with, I think, Irish Water Spaniels. But they have a but that breed has a particularly curly coat, and it shows up every once in a while in the Picardy Spaniels. Tilly has it. I spend 3 times. Well, let's put it this way: if I take her out and we get into cockleburs or something, it takes me 3 times the amount of time to clean her up as it does the other three. So, I admire the fact that I don't have to spend that time with Theo's coat. It's nice and flat. He's got great size. I'm a big fan. I'm getting into like inside baseball here, but I really like Spaniels with their ears a little lower set. And that's actually the breed standard for Picardys, but you'll see some out there with ears a little higher set. Um, and he's just got it all. I mean, he's got all of the characteristics that I like. And if we're going to pass genes on to the next generation, we might as well do that. He's got a great personality. He's just as lovable a dog in the house as you could possibly get, and just as ferocious a hunter as you could want to have in the field. I mean, he's just tireless, relentless. So, yeah, I'm trying to get those genes into the next generation. I want to pick up one of his grandsons or great grandsons somewhere down the road. So I'm sort of have a self-interest in making sure that I can go out and do that sometime.
Yeah, that stud fee might include Theo's son at some point, right?
But yeah, somebody will owe me something at some point in time, and that'll be one of his grandpups. So
Yeah, right on. So you are also one of the co-owners of Bird Dog of the Day, right?
that's correct. Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Can you go ahead
Um,
and tell us about that?
yeah, I'm glad you asked. It's a labor of love for us. I do have 2 partners, one in Oregon and one in Lewistown, Montana, where the company is based. It's a Montana-based company, and we're a small startup company, but we're really focused on the bird dog community. People hunt upland birds and waterfowl for all kinds of reasons. For me, the most important are the dogs and the people. As strange as it may sound, the birds come third. Um, and I've just enjoyed the chance to connect with people over the years and share stories about, our hunting. Um, I love birds. Bird dogs. I'm always excited to spend time with people who share that love. And so that's really the reason that we started Bird Dog of the Day. It was really an Instagram page for about 10 years. And as the name implies, people submit pictures of their bird dogs to us, and we post the Bird Dog of the Day every day. And believe it or not, we get thousands of pictures every day that we have to sort through. Um, and there's usually a handful that jump out at us, and we narrow it down to that. A lot of them are out of focus or sideways or what have you, but some are really well done. Um, Great looking dogs, great setting, a bird species that's just displayed really well in the picture, all those kinds of criteria. And we select one of those and post it as the bird dog of the day. And we did that for a long time. And last year, um, we decided that we were looking for some products that would sort of help us celebrate that lifestyle. We're not a utility company. We don't sell dog collars. We don't sell leads, but we sell the kinds of things that let people brag about their dogs and let people celebrate their dogs, or let people who love people like that gift those kinds of things. We've got Father's Day coming up. It'll be a very busy time for us as people gift things to their fathers that are involved in upland hunting and waterfowl and whatnot. And so we've got a great selection of, coffee tumblers and whiskey glasses and great high quality hoodies and hats and shirts and whatnot that really all revolves around, the message is revolving around the community. We're celebrating bird dogs and we're celebrating the people that love them. And in addition to, giving us an opportunity to get these different products into people's hands who are clamoring for them, we've connected with so many people doing that. The community aspect of this is just so important. And if you'll just indulge me, I'll tell you a little story I think that'll demonstrate that. So I was hunting in northeastern Montana last year. I'm not going to name the town because I don't want to be accused of hotspotting, but
I've got a special soundbite to cover that up if you did, just so you
yeah,
know.
I've done this enough to know that we don't
Yeah.
want to do that. But I'm up there and I'm in this podunk little town, and I'm in a quick stop. It wasn't the name of it, I can't remember, but the Montana equivalent of a racetrack or a quick stop or something. It's 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'm up there loading my thermos full of coffee, and I come out of the store, and I see this woman kneeling down beside my truck, and my truck is wrapped in the Bird Dog of the Day logo, orange and black, our logo on the side of my truck. And I see her kneeling down with her Vizsla in front of the truck, and her husband's taking a picture. And so that just shows you this wonderful community that we have. I mean, there aren't 200 people in this town, and the chances of me at 6 o'clock in the morning intersecting with somebody who knew the bird dog of the day, who thought enough about us as a social media company and as a product company to want to get their picture taken in front of our truck and then later post it on social media. It was fantastic. It was very humbling, and it was a great experience because what that did was I connected with her and her husband. We stood in that parking lot for 10 or 15 minutes and compared notes and talked about hunting and talked about our dogs. It turns out those folks are from Youngstown, Ohio, which is about an hour from where I grew up. And so, they're both of us are from Ohio. We connect in northeastern Montana in the middle of nowhere over bird dogs and upland hunting. I mean, it was just sort of the personification of what we were trying to do with this company and with this social media part of it. And we've been doing it for over a year now. It's working great. People like our products, but I think they feel even better about the community that we're building. And it's just a lot of fun. We're having a great time doing it. It's obviously not my full-time job, but it is one of my partner's full-time job, and he does a really good job of it. His name's Seth Patterson. He's in Oregon. My other partner's named Hyatt Voy, and he's in Montana. And we just love bird dogs, and we love the people that love bird dogs. So we're trying to celebrate that lifestyle.
So the $1 million question is, did you guys select the picture of that lady in her Vizsla for Bird Dog of the Day one day?
She made it to Bird Dog of the Day. That's right.
Excellent.
I forget the pup's name, and I'm sorry, but but that pup was Bird Dog of the Day at one point in time.
Oh, good for her then. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Excellent. All right. Mike, what else do you think you'd want to add?
Well, if just to finish the thought on Bird Dog of the Day, if you want to follow us on Instagram, our handle's at Bird Dog of the Day. Our website's birddogoftheday.com. We're on Facebook as well. So, you can follow us on social media. You can take a look at all the great stuff we have for Father's Day coming up and gift your father if he's an upland hunter or waterfowl hunter or something he's absolutely going to love. And I appreciate you having me on. These are the kinds of conversations that I love. One of the great things I think about social media, there's a lot of negatives. We talked about hotspotting a little bit. I mean, there's a lot of people that are down on how much upland and waterfowl hunting is being talked about now, ruining people's favorite spots and stuff. But I think the counter to that is how great it is to be able to talk to people about these kinds of things. I mean, in the old days, we would have sat around some hunting lodge and there would have been four people that could reminisce about the hunt or what we did last year, or, well, who we're trying to match our dogs up for breeding or that kind of stuff. And you and I are having this conversation. You're going to post this podcast, and everybody's going to get to participate in that as if they were sitting in that hunting camp with us. I think that's a great part of it. So I just appreciate you having me on. I'm very thankful for the opportunity, and hopefully we'll have the opportunity to do it again sometime.
Yeah, excellent. And thanks for coming on. Thanks for you and your partners doing what you guys do with Bird Dog of the Day and giving proud dog owners an opportunity to highlight or be highlighted or have their dogs highlighted. And then for providing great products. I think there's nobody that's providing bird dog related swag at the quality, volume, and scale that you guys provide. So I know I
Yeah.
saw you guys out at Pheasant Fest. There was always a huge crowd around your table. So it's awesome. I'm really happy that you're doing it. And my wife and my son listen to this podcast. So I'm hoping that maybe there's some Bird Dog of the Day stuff coming for Father's Day. I don't know.
I think a lot of fathers have their fingers crossed. So we've got some really great swag. So I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to talk about it, and I've enjoyed our conversation. I look forward to doing it again.
Excellent. All right, Mike. Thanks very much.
Okay, Bill. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed episode number 17 of the Woe Post. If you did, leave a 5-star review on your podcast directory of choice. Remember to share the podcast with your friends, like and follow on social media, and become a patron at patreon.com/thewopost. And if you own a bird dog related business and you'd like to advertise on the Woe Post podcast, you can contact me at bill@thewopost.com. Stay steady and God bless.